Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today got a pretty cool stack of records. Went up to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the old Capitol Records plant is, because I had a theory that maybe there'd be some cool records there. So made the drive, and yeah, definitely some very cool stuff. Two quick things before I start. I have a radio show on Monday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I play some psych tunes. And if you're interested, I'll leave a link below. Check out my friend's channel, Yesterday's Trips. He came back to the VC, started uploading some great videos of like all these amazing finds he's had over the last few months, because he's definitely on a roll. So yeah, check those out. We'll just get started right off the bat with some jazz heat. Milestone's Miles Davis. This is a super clean 1967 repress. Unfortunately, electronically rechanneled for stereo, but I'm sure it doesn't sound that bad. I haven't put this specific copy on yet, but this is a fantastic jazz record. Love anything by Miles Davis. And another one in the jazz world, Abdullah Ibrahim, Ikaya, or Home. This is Cape Jazz, which is jazz that came from South Africa. This is really like fun music to listen to again. It pairs well with those African records that I showed in the last video, I think. Yeah, just really like, it's kind of like bouncy, good, really good music. Like, just a great listen. Yeah, I didn't know this one at all, but saw the cover, saw the back. Looked really interesting. Saw the label. It was $3. I just figured, why not? That's all the jazz finds. There wasn't too much jazz, but get into some sort of classic rock things and then move into the psych world, as I always do. Lou Reed, Coney Island Baby. Super cheap in an antique store. Yeah, very nice copy. It's a repress, but this is just a really good album. I really enjoyed this record. I don't own any other of Lou Reed's discography, and from what I understand, this is definitely not like the best album he put out, but really enjoyable songs. Liked it a lot. There's a couple songs I wasn't too much of a fan of, but it's just a really good album. Solid classic rock. This next one I'm kind of on the fence about keeping, but we basically, me and Yesterday's Trips, I saw this Facebook listing for like, this guy was selling what it seemed like his record collection for like 60 years or something. So I like messaged him, obviously, and we set up a time, and like I drove an hour, to go get this guy's, look at this guy's collection. Like, he gave me the impression that there were thousands of records. He said there were thousands and we'd be there for hours and stuff. He probably had about 250 records, and it took us like 5-10 minutes to go through all of them, and it was mostly nothing. Like, it was one of the most disappointing trips I've ever made. But yeah, you get burned sometimes. It just happens, Super overpriced stuff too, like horrible prices. But this is one I just picked out. Ramatam. I picked this out because it features Mitch Mitchell on drums, and I heard people say some good things about it. This is a pretty decent record. I wasn't crazy about it. There's some. It's definitely got a little bit of psych leanings, I guess, but kind of in that classic rock vein. But there's a few more from that sort of dig. So it wasn't a complete failure, got a couple cool things. But this came from a different place. This was from a yard sale / bookstore type thing. They were having a bookstore was having a yard sale, and they had some records, and I asked if they had more, and they had more up in like the attic of the store. So nothing too crazy up there. This is the only thing I bought to keep I paid like less than $1 for it, so I'm happy. Boxer Below the Belt. This band features Mike Patto on lead vocals and Ollie Halsall on guitar. So if you like the band Patto, this is definitely a really cheap record to seek out. It's really, really solid classic rock with some fantastic guitar playing. Keith Ellis on bass and Tony Newman on drums. I believe Tony Newman was in the band May Blitz, and Keith Ellis was in some other group. I can't remember right now, but yeah, in the UK this has a cover of like a naked woman, so when the US copy came out, they censored it. He is just an incredible player. Like just the solos on this album are top notch too. Not as good as like on the Patto records, but still really solid stuff. This is a very solid classic rock, little bit hard rock. Just, if you like the band Free and you like the band Elf, I feel like you would like this band. Band's called Boxer, album's called Below the Belt. They have a couple more albums, but I've only heard this one and pretty decent stuff. So if you see it, like this is a cheap album. If you see a copy, I'd recommend grabbing it. Next one from the same antique store that I bought the jazz records. There's a booth with some pretty cool stuff, including one of these. Frank Zappa Lectures. This is a bootleg that came out in the Netherlands. This is fantastic. The sound quality is amazing. Pretty sure it's a live performance. I'm not sure from where, but tons of musicians on here. But one that sticks out to me is, of course, Steve Vai, a ridiculous guitar player. I mean, there's the full list. It's like crazy. But yeah, I saw Steve Vai live with Satriani on his tour, and it's just ridiculous what he does. Like, crazy. He's so crazy good. And you can hear him shredding on this record, and you know when it's him, because it's just unreal. But yeah, it's a super clean copy, and I got a steal on this. Super happy about that. But yeah, for some reason, I've found a couple Frank Zappa bootlegs this year, actually. I found a couple. I sold the other one, which maybe I shouldn't have. But this one is going to stick around, because this was just killer. Fantastic. I think this is like 80s Zappa, so this is like later 80s, but it's just really, really good. Like, I guess sort of fusion-y music, but like, just good. It's just good. This next one I got for a steal. This was a super unexpected find for me at the moment. You know, I was digging in, this was in Scranton in antique stores. Wasn't expecting to find this. Red Hot Chili Peppers, By the Way. This is an original 2002 press. Yeah, with the insert. And yeah, unreal the price I paid for this. Probably doesn't really happen too often, especially with records like pressed like in the early 2000s. Really, really cool. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a rough copy. I'd probably say it's in the VG plus range, low end VG, but for the price I paid, definitely worth it. And this pressing is just so good, unbelievable sound quality. It just sounds amazing. I was really, really enjoying this record when I put it on. Not to mention, the music is also amazing. I do really like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I've only got 2 of their albums. I have one as a like a brand new reissue, and now I have this original press. That's super cool. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to find this, but definitely very happy. It's a great record. This has Can't Stop, you know, the big hit. The Zephyr song comes on before that, and the whole first side. Oh my god, just great stuff. Really, really enjoyed that. This next one, I've been hunting this specific pressing of this record for a while. and I don't really see it too often. And hopefully one day I'll upgrade it to a mono version. But this is Steppenwolf, self-titled debut record. Amazing stuff. But this does not have the Born to Be Wild blurb on it, so I guess it's more of a first pressing or whatever. I don't know. I never really. These are kind of uncommon, you know. I always see them. It's either that white cover, or it's got a sticker, or it's got the just printed on Born to Be Wild sticker, which is the copy I had for a long time. This is a super clean first US copy. I also just wanted an excuse to talk about this record. This is killer psychedelic hard rock. Not so much, not too psychedelic, not so much like in your face crazy rock, but just really solid, really blistering, like great guitar tone, great songs too. Of course, everyone knows Born to Be Wild, but my favorite cut on here might be Your Wall's Too High. Everybody's Next One is a great song. Pusher, people know. Take What You Need, The Ostrich. This is a fantastic record. I can't tell you the amount of times I've listened to this album. This is 100% the best Steppenwolf album to me. They came out with so much energy. Fantastic stuff. Amazing record. And super cheap. Like, my first copy I paid like $5 for. Same with this one. You know, it's not uncommon. See it everywhere. Maybe in really good shape like this one, it's a little uncommon, but just look at this cover. You know, great shape. Really happy to have that. This next one is one I picked up in that sort of disappointing dig. But this is one I pulled out that was super worth it. Really, really cool. Wasn't expecting to see it. Wild Honey by the Beach Boys. He told us he had psychedelic stuff, and this is like the most psychedelic that was in there, which is crazy because it's not really that psychedelic. Yeah, this was apparently Jim Morrison's favorite Beach Boys record. It came out in late 67, I think. Either that or early 68. I'm pretty sure it was 67. The track Wild Honey is a great track. And there's definitely a couple more great tracks on this record. The Beach Boys, after Pet Sounds and before Pet Sounds, can be a little spotty at times. But this is a mono press. And this one was actually pretty cheap, considering it's a little rough. Not the greatest condition-wise, but pretty cool mono release. Plays just fine. Cool stuff. Glad to have it in the collection. I've been looking. I sold one of my copies of Smiley Smile, and I really regret it. I don't know why I sold it. It was a reissue, but it was like one of the 80s monos. But yeah, there's some really great tracks on those Beach Boys records, and they're worth getting to know. They take a little bit to grow on you, but I really enjoy them. And keeping in that same vein, this is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Of course, everyone knows, but this is a super nice mono copy, and a Scranton press that I found in Scranton. Isn't that pretty cool? Found this like a mile from the record plant. I made the record plant my first stop, and then I said I would go to the closest antique store to the record plant, and this was in there. It was priced at like what a stereo copy would be, and even a fair price for a copy this clean. Really nice. These Capitol Records pressings of the Beatles stuff are not the greatest in terms of sound quality. You know, a UK mono I just love to own, and I can only imagine how good that sounds. But these are pretty decent, you know, not bad. This copy does not have the inner sleeve or the inserts, unfortunately, but yeah, I still decided to pick it up. I always look at the Beatles records to see if they're the mono ones, especially for these later ones. I heard a couple things that I had never heard before on this mono press. There was like some vocals, like not vocals, but like talking a little bit in the background. Um, the song "She's Leaving Home" is like noticeably higher pitched. Uh, and at the end of, ooh, I don't remember what track it was. There was just like some talking, and it was interesting. Like I don't know if anyone, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's just a very interesting listen. I never heard the album like this before, um, so it was cool to get a mono. It's honestly a different experience from a stereo. In terms of Beatles records, is this my favorite? Maybe, but ask me tomorrow and it'll be different. But right now, I've been listening to this a lot. Another one that came from Scranton, from a band that was located in Scranton, Glass Prism. I saw 2 copies of this and 2 copies of their second record, and I've never seen them before. So obviously, people just own this one in their hometown. I think it sold pretty decently well. This is Poe Through the Glass Prism. This record is kind of really cheesy, but I really enjoyed it. There's some great psych moments on here. It is literally Edgar Allan Poe's poems set to music. So you kind of miss out on a chorus and stuff like that. But it starts out with The Raven, which is a great poem. And that is a pretty good version. But when you get to side 2, I can't really remember what track it is. A Dream Within a Dream was really good, and it was either Alone or Beloved. Opens with this killer bass solo, and it has some great psych moments. But yeah, this record is pretty cheesy, but I think it's pretty cool. And actually, Garrison, the reissue label that like everyone loves, just put out this and their second record for some reason. So that's actually how I heard about this record. And yeah, I remember reading that they were from Scranton and was like, well, I need to find a copy of that while I'm there, and I found one. So yeah, not too rare, not too uncommon. You could probably get one for around $15 ish. I've heard that their second record is better, but yeah, this is a very interesting album. If you're into psychedelic music, it's one to consider. If you're not into psychedelic music, I can't imagine that you would really enjoy this too much. This album suffers from all the songs kind of sounding the same, but it's a good listen. Enjoyable stuff. This next one, I have been searching for a copy of this for years and years, and I can imagine that a lot of you would probably be surprised that I didn't own an original press of this, but I was just waiting for a really fair deal, and when I pulled this out, my jaw dropped, which is like, it's not that rare or expensive, but I just love this record. Forever Changes My Love. I made a list a while ago, not like a YouTube video, just a list, like a personal list of my top 10 favorite, and at the time I put this album in like top 10 of my favorite albums ever. This is just perfect. This is such a good record. I know that you all probably know about it, but if you've never heard this, stop watching this right now and go listen to this album in full. Listen to the whole thing. I know some people are not crazy about it, and I just don't get how you couldn't be, because it's just amazing. And this is a super nice original press. Got a fantastic deal on it. Finally able to upgrade to an original. I had a mono, which I don't really like the mono mix of this record. I think the stereo is definitely better, because the mono is a fold down, so they mixed in stereo, they just play it in mono, it doesn't sound that great. But there's some stereo effects on this record too. This is a super clean copy. Look at that vinyl. So happy to have this. And like, it took me 4 years to hunt down an original, you know. And this record's not that crazy rare, you know. If I really wanted a copy, I could have just gone and paid up for it. But I love finding stuff in the wild. And this one just made me so excited. Like, it's not that crazy of a record, but I was just so happy to find this. Was not expecting to see it. Yeah, I just the amount of joy that finding this brought me, unreal. Can't say enough about this record. Just look at the cover, and just it's like folk. If you've never heard it, which I doubt, it's like folk rock, with tiny bit psychedelic tinges. Definitely, I mean, I call it psychedelic rock, but it's like mainly kind of in the folk area. But this is just such a great production, and it's just a monster of a record. Like, the leap from Da Capo to this record, and then going to the next one, you know, this record just like sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of production quality and songwriting and everything. Unreal how good this record is. One of my absolute favorites of all time. Love Forever Changes. This next one is another fantastic album. Anduella's Dream, Love and Poetry. This is not an original, obviously, because I would be losing my mind. This is like a $900 album. But this is a bootleg copy, actually, but got it for a really good deal. Reissues of this, like the Sunbeam one, go for like $50. So I didn't really want to pay that price. So decided I would go with just a copy, any copy that would pop up on eBay for cheap, and this one did. And very happy to get it. It's a pretty decent bootleg, you know. Doesn't sound horrible, doesn't sound amazing. The people in the review section on Discogs seem to think that this was the best sounding pressing of this record in existence, other than an original. The second track is muffled. There's like clips, you know. It's not great, but what is great is the fantastic music on this record. It starts out with The Days Grew Longer for Love, great song. Sunday, Man Without a Name, fantastic. Cocaine, unreal. Shades of Grey and Duella. It's just such a great record. Like, this is peak British psychedelia. It does not get much better than this. It's got like its sort of classic rock moments, but it's also got its really deep psychedelic, you know, crazy, great guitar and all that stuff moments. This is just an amazing record with, again, just some fantastic songwriting. Really great tracks on this. Really great songs. I would urge you to go listen to this too, because it's just incredible. Amazing record. This next one, found an antique store for such a crazy deal, and pretty dang hard to find record here. So really excited to find it. The World of Oz. This is a great pop psych record. It reminds me a lot of like Bee Gees' First. If you like that record, you'll probably enjoy this one. The hit song was The Muffin Man, which is so cheesy, but at the same time, it gets stuck in your head, and it's a great song. This cover just is so good, you know, and kind of almost doesn't live up to the music, but there's a few really great tracks on this record. And I'd be curious to know if anyone has a copy that's not a promo, because all the ones up for sale and all the copies that have sold have a promotional copy sticker, and there's only one version of this in the US. If you were going to listen to a couple tracks off this record, I'd pick the last two, Like a Tear and Willow's Harp, that's where it gets psychedelic on here. It just gets real, like real psychedelic by the end, you know. But a lot of pop tracks on here. But it's on Duram, and Duram is one of my favorite labels, as you know. But yeah, great record. Definitely check it out. And this last one, if you remember my video from a couple videos back, my top 10 most wanted, this was in there. And I just sat down on the toilet, and as I usually do, I opened eBay, and this was in my save search for a price that just made me buy it instantly. High Tide Sea Shanties. I think this was number 10 on the list. I am so excited to have a copy of this. Like, you don't even know. To me, this could be the first heavy metal record. Or the first track could be the first heavy metal track. Really cool gatefold, really cool cover. Came out on Liberty. This is a super nice copy. I'm like so thrilled to have this. But Feudalist's Lament. Stop what you're doing right now and go play that track. This album is pre-Black Sabbath. Keep that in mind and play that track. Ridiculous. This came out in 1969, before the first Sabbath record. And let me tell you, it is heavy. It is so heavy, especially the first track, which is my favorite on the record. Feudalist Lament. That riff, the tone, the vocals, it's all there. Another vocalist that kind of sounds like Jim Morrison, and again, I would say Jim Morrison fronting Black Sabbath, like I described Fraction, but if you like Fraction Moonblood, you'd probably like this record. But this is just down and dirty, heavy hard rock, but it also gets pretty proggy. Has some psychedelic moments. It's not all like super duper heavy, but it's really, really, really heavy for most of the tracks. And it's just so good. Like, unreal. There's a violin player on this record. So if you're into heavy metal violin, you hear a little bit of that on here. But this, I just urge you right now to go on Spotify and look up Feudalist Lament, and just play the track. It'll be the best 5 minutes of your day, I can assure you. It's just so good. Thank you for watching. Go check out High Tide Sea Shanties, amazing record. See you next time. Peace.